Hello, this is Captain Chaudhari. Today I'm going to speak about El-Nino and La Nina. They are actually pronounced as El-Nino and La Nina, but I'm more comfortable with El-Nino and La Nina. What are these phenomena? These are the global phenomena. They are the greatest global phenomena to govern the climate of the earth. What happens? Let us see. First of all, let us understand what normally happens in Pacific. So these trade winds which are there, they come from east and they blow towards the west. So we say that the winds are easterly. These winds basically blow and carry along with them, blow warm water, towards the west. Like basically, effectively, they take away a lot of warm water from off the western coast of South America, and this water goes to western Pacific. For example, Indonesia, etc., you will find that the water level has considerably risen compared to the normal Pacific level. And because this warm water normally goes to the west, the temperature of the water is also above the normal seawater temperature of Pacific. So this is the normal course of events. What happens in this is because of wind, drift, current, and because of Ackman's transportation, etc., a lot of surface water is transported to the mid-Pacific. With this, a lot of nutrient-rich and cooler water from the seabed areas, from near the seabed, rises onto the surface. So this becomes excellent fishing grounds. So off the Peruvian coast, in the normal seasons, like normal non-El Nino seasons, the fishing ground is excellent. And the cold water that comes up, it also affects the climate of America in general. And on the western side, it's normally the warm water that provides the energy for storms, etc. And you have a lot of rainfall on the western side of Pacific. So this is the normal pattern, and this is associated with the upwelling current of the western coast of South America. Now this phenomenon is well known. Now what happens in an El Nino situation? Because of the temperature and pressure variation, basically the trade wind strength is decided. So what happens is the trade winds become weaker. Now, when the trade winds become weaker, the warm water is not carried to the western Pacific as it's normally done, affecting the pressure. The trade winds become weaker, and sometimes they are reversed also. And because these trade winds are reversed, etc., upwelling that used to normally happen on the western coast of South America will go down or will be not there at all. The water that is off the western coast of South America becomes warmer. And this phenomenon affects the global climate in general. This is called El Nino phenomenon. Now, El Nino phenomenon is supposed to be arriving, or there is this region 3.4 of El Nino in somewhere in middle of Pacific. If the temperature is 0.5 degrees more than the average temperature of Pacific, then we say that the El Nino is suspected or is in vicinity. Whereas if the temperature is about 0.5 degrees centigrade below the average temperature, we say that the La Nina conditions are expected or is going to arrive. La Nina would normally follow El Nino. So La Nina behavior and impact is almost opposite to the El Nino behavior. Now, why the name El Nino? Let us see. El Nino is well associated with Peru. Peruvian civilization and many ancient cultures, they became extinct there. It was said that human sacrifice was given to prevent excessive rain. So these people fought with the weather. In 1525, Pizarro reported rainfall in Peruvian desert. Then it was 17th century that one Captain Camilo, he said that he observed the warm current in the Peruvian water, right? And this was noticed during the Christmas. So that's why the name given El Nino. El Nino means a little boy in Spanish. So what happens in El Nino? There is increased air pressure in Western Pacific. The pressure reduces in Eastern Pacific. There is increased water level, pile up of water in the Western Pacific. The prevailing rain pattern shifts from Western Pacific to Western Central Pacific. The temperature of the water of west coast of South America, that is the Eastern Pacific, increases because the upwelling is subsided. The trade winds tend to decrease, right? The trade winds can sometimes reverse their direction, right? So this is what happens in El Nino. El Nino conditions or episode. El Nino cycle is known to occur at an interval of 4 years, though in the study of over a century at times it varied. Sometimes the cycle period is short. The exact reason and lifespan of El Nino are not very well reasoned, but the warm El Nino phase normally lasts just for about 9 months or so. Modern day research and reanalysis techniques have managed to find at least 26 El Nino events since 1900, with the strongest in last 40 years. Now El Nino tends to get exhausted after some time. Actually, with the feedback loop between the atmosphere and ocean becoming strong, the El Nino also becomes strong. But somewhere down the way, if the link breaks, what happens is El Nino tends to become normal. That means the normal conditions prevail. But then what happens is, usually after the El Nino phenomenon, La Nina progresses. La Nina is a little extremity over the normal conditions. Now, normally the wind, trade winds, they blow in a westerly direction, but in La Nina they become stronger. La Nina is actually opposite to El Nino, and it goes on the other extreme side, right? So what happens in La Nina? Let's look at what actually happens in La Nina. The pressure increases in the Eastern Pacific and pressure decreases in the Western Pacific. Now seawater temperature, because of the upwelling which becomes stronger, the seawater temperature is cooler than normal. It becomes more cool, and more nutrient rich water comes from underneath, and it becomes excellent fishing ground, better than normal. Now this prevailing rain pattern which had shifted in El Nino towards the Central Pacific shifts to the west and even more west than the normal. The trade winds, they become stronger. So all this happens, which you would see is generally opposite to the La Nina episode. A wide variety of disasters have been blamed on El Nino effect, including a famine in Indonesia in 1983 and bushfires in Australia arising from droughts. Rainstorms in California, destruction of fishery off the coast of Peru, floods and damage in Americas, storm hitting China, forest fires in Southeast Asia and Brazil, snowfall in Guadalajara, abnormal temperatures in US during summers or winters, higher than normal number of hurricanes in the Atlantic. El Nino in 1876-77 gave rise to the most deadly famines of the 19th century. The 1876 famine alone in northern China killed up to 13 million people. So friends, we can do a lot about arresting the global warming, which we should do, but we cannot do anything much about El Nino and La Nina not happening. All we have to do is we have to be more vigilant, we have to be better prepared, we have to prepare the society, prepare the infrastructure to face these difficulties. But unfortunately, the scientists say that the future El Nino events can be worse. But luckily, we have the scientific progress also done in the field of meteorology, the meteorological observations and forecasting. So we can do better in future.